Good Life. Thank you for stopping by. I am Patrick Harney. As always, a proud member of the MPods Network. And yeah, I have an amazing episode. It's a special Thanksgiving episode. It's not necessarily Thanksgiving themed, but it's a very special guest that I have on. And her technique is taught in over 40 countries. She has worked with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Jake Gyllenhaal, Brad Pitt, Charlize Theron, Halle Berry, Beyonce, Sylvester Stallone, just to name a few. I mean, Jared Leto. I mean, the list goes on and on. Jim Carrey. So I have the pleasure of speaking with her today, not only about her technique, but some stories that she has from working with some of these people. And also, you know, we do a little Q&A of some questions that from some of her students, as I am a student in her studio, they have for her, and kind of listen to all of the wisdom that she's willing to give out. So I have the pleasure of having Ivana Chubbuck on the show. So without further ado, let's just get into it. All right, and I am very happy to have Ivana Chubbuck, the one and only, on the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I wanted to have you on because, one, I am a student in your studio, and I wanted to have you on because I've never worked with a technique that is so effective for me. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit as to how you came up with this technique and how, and why it's so effective for people. And it was interesting because I found out about your studio because I was watching an interview with one of my favorite people and actors, Travis Fimmel. Mm-hmm. And he was asked about, I think it was for Raised by Wolves. Mm-hmm. And he was asked about his process and what it's like. And he said that he always just he comes to you and he works with you. So for one, I want to ask, what is it like working? I mean, you've worked with Halle Berry, Jared Leto, Brad Pitt, Jake Gyllenhaal, just to name a few. Mm-hmm. What is that like to work with, people who are who are so established in their career? How do you go about that exactly?
Well, most of the people that have become stars off of working this technique and with me, or just this technique, is you don't have to. There's people all over the world who are part of the school, who are also part of the schools that I have with accredited teachers all over the world that are booking really great things, getting really big awards, and it's just the technique that works. I'm just the one that created the technique and passed it along to other people to teach in a beautiful way. But most of these people weren't stars. They were Travis was. I don't even tell people this, but he used to sneak into the studio and sleep on the couch, bathe in the bathroom in the where the bathroom was. You know where the bathrooms are. So he would just take some paper towels and then put water all over himself. But I didn't know this until one of my administrators had shown up to resupply some of the pads and the pens and things like that. And he caught Travis sleeping on the futon that we use for the prop furniture. So it's he didn't have any money, and any money he made, he'd just go to me for classes as well as for coachings. And he never asked for a discount. Whatever money he made, he really put towards his training. And but most of these people, Brad Pitt, had 3 terrible jobs, straight day jobs you got to take when you're. And again, he'd work on privates and in classes. He always had. He wanted to rehearse so much that, I mean, like 2 to 3 hours a day, that he had scene partners who would complain that he wanted to rehearse too much. He lived in a home with a whole bunch of other guys, sleeping on floors and things like that. Charlize Theron had a similar situation where she lived in a home with a whole bunch of girls, and she had no money. And again, these people just wherever they found them, they would always like find somehow to make enough money to be in class, rehearse their asses off, work really, really hard, and found, and just found a way to be about the craft and the work ethic. And I can give you so many stories like that. These people are not, they were all of a sudden that they come to my door and this big star shows up at my door. They were people that were struggling and for the most part financially, and had to live really small. I've had people sleep out of their cars, like I told you, Travis often slept in the studio. They got caught, and it's just that it's about work ethic and tenacity, and about making your choices be about where you spend your money. And I've had to tell people that are stars now that weren't stars. I said, you live too large, and so. So I'm having a struggle. I won't be able to come to class this month. They said, eat less. That's what I did. That's what all those people did. And most of the people that you see on that list in my bio, that are people that I've helped, create pretty nice careers for, are people that live small for a while so that they could, and live small so they could afford to be proud of their work, skilled, hone their abilities, as opposed to just, well, I'm naturally talented, so I'm entitled somehow to a career, which is frankly bullshit. The lesson to be learned in terms of all that is don't give up, work your ass off, find a way to pay for your classes, and it will pay off. I've never seen where it hasn't paid off. What doesn't pay off is being lazy.
Yeah.
And also natural talent doesn't mean, frankly, shit, because there's a lot of people I know that weren't naturally talented, that they just worked so hard, they became a resource of incredible talent because of how they explored the craft, and also because my technique is based in taking trauma, pain, insecurities, and fears, and as opposed to what it usually causes, which is shame and self-destruction, is to use it instead to fuel your ability to overcome and win with, because pain is a very powerful fuel, and pain will make us do things, either like we're going to overcome and accomplish whatever our purpose is, and love, and finding our way to self-worth and feeling good about ourselves, or it could cause incredible shame and self-destructive ways, sabotage, and all those things, which is what most people do. They go to that place. The difference between why a person is a star. Are we still? You're still okay. Every person is a star. Is like they're a version of a leader, because they're saying, I'm not going to listen to what other people tell me that I need to do. I'm not going to listen. Like, even I call it paper pleasing, when someone looks at the script and they say, oh, the writer wrote that I should cry here, so I'm going to cry here. The writer says angrily, so I'm going to be angry here. And the great actors, they go after a purpose, the objectives, because objectives are all about telling the story, which is, we're telling a story with the writer, director, actor, we're telling the same story. But sometimes, how do I find my overall objective? It's like, what is the script's overall objective? It will give you some clues on that. With the forward motion of all that, what happens is that we want to evolve, change, grow, find catharsis and resolution and things. But this is what all those things are: traumas, are dramas, and our insecurities and our issues that we have that are based in our childhood realities are what makes a star is dynamic performances, and dynamic performances can only come from saying, I'm going to win my objective in spite of and because of all the bad things that have happened to me.
Mm.
That's why it's so effective, because most people find their way to be sabotagers and self-destructive from the exact same places. So when your audiences watch an actor or a writer, because I work with writers and directors, watch a piece that's making you feel like, well, those characters are going through the same thing that I'm going through, yet they're doing something and growing and finding catharsis and there's resolution from it. So maybe so can I. And you're giving an audience hope.
Yeah.
Hope that they can find some version of resolution in whatever it is that's like really what they're struggling with. And what's cool about this technique too is it's based in psychology. It's based in science, the science of psychology, the science of behavioral science, and cultural anthropology, which is the history of why people do what they do, of history of culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just taking all these sciences and say, this is what we're trying to recreate real human behavior. Well, we can't do it from doing airy-fairy stuff. We got to go to the psychology of what makes us do what we do, both when we're being, in all the things, why we kill somebody, why, in terms of the character, not why,
Mm-hmm.
this is not a show for killers.
It's not a crime series, right?
I was like, this is why people do this. No, this is why actors have to get and explore the psyche of why. Because when a killer kills, they're trying to solve something, some childhood abuse, or someone who they felt that was hurtful to someone that they loved when they were growing up, and they couldn't do anything about it when they were kids. So they can as adults. So finding the purpose of even the most evil behaviors and saying, well, there's a solving point to it all. There's something that's helping the character / the human being that you're duplicating. They're doing it for a righteous reason. So we, again, as an audience, we're not looking at cliches, because we don't need to see cliches. If I always say that if we didn't need the actor to take their own personal stuff and to plump it out, to bring their quirks and their idiosyncrasies and their weirdnesses to the part that make it special and unique, then we just put the script on the screen and say, let people read it, because they're gonna have the same ideas you do if you're just going to just supply what it is that's on the paper. Like people pleasing and paper pleasing, same concept, never works. Doesn't work.
Mm. So when you're working with an actor, then, because I mean, some of the artists that are on your list are actors that go really deep into characters. I mean, some that I can think of are some like Jared Leto or like Shia LaBeouf, or I mean, they go like, they're known for going like way deep. When you see some actors, I guess from your expertise, when you see some actors go almost, it seems like off the deep end after playing a character, like they're having a hard time, they can't come back from it. What
A lot of my people, when they're working the system, they can come back from it. It's you wrap, done.
Yeah,
You're done the day, done. It's just you should be able to have that's why we use current stuff and this technique and not past stuff. Current stuff you're trying to resolve and solve today's world, so that you're in current time and it feels good to try to do something about something. When we're being proactive, it feels good.
Yeah.
So when we're allowing things to defeat us, it feels really bad. That's what makes us stick like glue. But this whole technique is based on you find what your objective is as the character, and then find how this is going to be in some way solving something. And then the personalization say, how am I solving something for myself? So it actually feels good and you feel lighter. So in terms of the danger points, they're not using my technique then. They're
Yeah.
just going into like the places that a lot of like, method and that kind of stuff does, which is like just opening up a can of worms and then
Yeah.
doing nothing with it. So I always tell people, they say, like, when they say, I don't know, I'm having a hard time letting it go right now. And I said, well, you're not doing it right. So what are you trying to solve in this? And they say, I don't know. I just feel all this pain. And I said, well, what pain are you trying to solve? And
Mhm.
so they said, well, I'm going through a really difficult breakup right now. And I said, well, don't you want to get over it? And they said, yeah, do you want to keep being in pain? No. Do you want to release that? So what is it that you need to do as the within the characters, format, because we're not going off, we're not in therapy here.
Mhm.
What do you need to do through the characters' lines and actions that are going to help you solve your issues and that you're going through right now? And so we figured that out. I'm going to make this say within the scene objective is to get my power back. So if you make that person feel this is what it feels like to be me when you do what you do to me. Oh, that feels good, but I gave them that pain, So now I'm going to make you feel guilty. It's on your head, not mine. I'm going to make you take the blame, so I don't have to. Win. It's a whole win-lose kind of reality. It always feels good to be a winner, So what we're trying to do is solve things from a winner's point of view. So I'm not so it won't be. I want you to feel sorry for me because that's a loser's point of view.
Mm.
But we don't want to be around people that feel sorry for themselves, and I don't want you to feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
But people who do want that are not people that we want to spend a lot of time with in real life, and so we certainly don't want to spend money to see them.
And I've heard you talk um, about not playing the victim.
Mhm.
And that's something that I really like that thought. What can you explain that to those who don't know maybe what that means?
Well, it means that you try to find the power in your pain. And so if you find how the pain or circumstances of your issues that are happening through the dramatic circumstances on the script, that you're making choices that are creating that, like, I'm a victim to life circumstances, so I want you to feel sorry for me, or I am a victim to you treating me badly, and so I need to find the strength in that. For example, Laura in Glass Menagerie, she's like a cripple. She doesn't have, she lives at home with her mother. She doesn't have a man in her life. But she's typical, like, written like a victim. But if you really look at if you look at the writing and why it's so powerful, is because you can take it two ways. You'd say, I'm a victim to life circumstances because I had this disease that gave me a bum leg, and I had to stay with my mother, who's my father left my mother and me and abandoned us, and I have no man in my life, to how she's used her cripple to actually, she doesn't have to go to school. She tells her mother it's uncomfortable and everybody hears my leg clump when I get to my desk. So she doesn't have to go to school because she doesn't want to. So she doesn't want to, and that school is to get a job. She doesn't have to work. She gets taken care of. And the guy she always had a crush on, she gets a date with because her brother feels bad for her that she doesn't have anybody. So she goes out with the man of her dreams and has this beautiful, beautiful, magical evening where they dance, and her Glass Menagerie gets, caught up in this whole thing. It's just, so the whole thing is just, we could look at this as being a victim's journey, which we wouldn't want to watch, or a victim, or a journey of somebody who's saying, I'm going to take the problems and turn them into how I can win with them. How do I win with things? I always say, take the victim out of being a victim. Take the victim part out of being a victim, because you're going to be playing a victim, but how you handle the choices that you make will be ones that will be victim loser choices, or people who are trying to win no matter what. The means justify the end. I'll do whatever I need to get to win. And we always support a person who tries to win. You don't have to win. It's like the Rocky journey. The Rocky journey is like the iconic first Rocky was that everybody remembers him winning the match at the end, but he didn't. He just tried so hard to win and to overcome all this stuff. He took the victim out of being a victim, and everybody remembers him as being the winner. He wasn't. He lost that.
Mm-hmm.
But because he was trying so hard to be a winner, he became an iconic winner. And in just movie history is considered one of the best movies like ever, So, and since I work with Sylvester Stallone, I asked him, I worked with him after he became a star. So that was one of the Star Wars, but most of the people I worked with, they were nobodies and had nothing. And we created the kind of work that made them effective enough that people responded to them, because you're only going to be a star because human beings like you, and a vast amount of them do. And people like to watch a winner's journey, a person who's trying to win in spite of everything and the mountain of things that get in your way. And so I asked him, I said, I said, is it true that's why you wrote that he lost at the end? And he said, absolutely. I want people to see him as a winner from what he does, not because he wins a bout and then wins the world championship. And one of the reasons why the other Rockies didn't do as well, is because he won. He won all of them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the icon attached to the other ones. Yeah. And it was Creed. I worked with him on Creed, and this was where we were using, like, he has cancer, he has he doesn't have a relationship with his son. This is I feel he's lost his wife and his best friend, and he's kind of ready to give up the ship. And so we used the objective for Creed, Creed's son, to Michael B. Jordan's part. So you have to prove to me that you're worth me staying alive for. So you're going to have to do that for me. That was our objective. Isn't that cool?
That's a heavy objective.
That's cool.
I love that.
And he did. So now I will take chemo, but I'm not going to take chemo until you do what you do. And there was a lot of tough love in there and a lot of that kind of stuff in terms of using, and I could talk about his private stuff because he talked about it in the New York Times article about his work in that, but he talked about me, and he talked about how I made him use his son Sage, who had died. Mm-hmm. And of course there's such guilt that he has, or that he would have if the son dies or a child dies. And so we're working out through this material, finding some kind of catharsis to get to the other side, to be able to move on regarding his son. And so he says in the article, he says it was sometimes very painful to look at. It was really difficult to really think about jumping into that thought process, because it's a very painful thing to look at. But then on the other side, he said he had such comfort. He used the word comfort and catharsis. Mm-hmm. And so he was able to take the creative choices that we were using. So we're not just going to, let's dig into your guilty feelings about your son that passed away, but let's look at how we can get past it.
Yeah.
How do we solve things? Solve. I can't say enough. We're trying to solve things with our work. That's the artist. An artist, a true artist, that's what it's about. Someone who just digs deep. Sometimes it becomes a little self-indulgent to dig so deep that you can't come back from it. Because I'm just putting in quotes, come back from it. That's because you want to say that you can't come back from it, because it sounds cool, But the truth is, what you really want is to dig deep. And you're digging deep so you can take the stuff that is affecting you that you don't want. You want to stop it affecting you so much. Like my mother's voice. My mother, who was very abusive and was mentally ill and a hoarder, but she was physically and emotionally abusive and not in control of it. So you never knew when it was going to get very violent because she was very mentally ill. Is that it's like how I had to view that information is, how am I going to become a survivor, as opposed to that voice that's on my shoulder that what I've been working through as first as an actor, then as a teacher, is to eradicate that voice, so that voice doesn't keep me. The voice will be acknowledgedly there for the rest of my life. If I let it destroy me, that's what I have to change.
Mm.
Okay. And the concept is like, I own this information. I can't get rid of it, but how I look at it, how I allow it to make choices in my behavior, first as the character and then as the human being, me, the human being that's playing that character, that I could find a way to get to the other side of at least it being a more benign voice, a benign
Mm.
voice.
Yeah.
As opposed to an active voice that's telling me hurt yourself, make decisions that are going to cause you pain, make decisions that are make people want to run away from you, make decisions that are going to sabotage something wonderful that you've helped to create. And it's like, I'm going to benign that voice through my work and through my teaching, because I have to teach you how to do that. How do
Yeah.
you make that happen? And it's in the book all over the place. I have had people in my book, The Power of the Actor, people, because it's been translated to 20 languages. I have people from all over the world send me emails saying, your book alone, it's a theory, it's a philosophy of
Yeah.
to prosperity, is that you've changed my life, but not just as an actor, but as a human being. It's just like you've made me feel good about the stuff that's happened to me. Make me feel I'm not so all alone.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, this is again, I mean, the power of the actor. This is something that when I read this and as I've gone through uh, classes and working through this technique, and I'm a pretty private person. I like to keep my private stuff, you know, to myself, or my personal stuff private and everything else. But you know, but I will say, I mean, within the last year, I've gone through a divorce, and this technique and working through scenes using this technique in class and everything has really helped me get through that. And I'm not just saying that. I do mean it, because
I can
what
tell. I can tell you mean it.
well
I know when people are lying.
well, and that's the thing is like this. I mean, what this technique does is it teaches you to use the any pain or trauma or anything that you've had in your life. It teaches you to stop letting it be used against you and use it for you. You can use it for your work, but even just your everyday life, the way you look at things, and the way that you
Trauma this last year. My husband died, my mother died, and like stuff that happened, things that are going on with my retarded brother that he's struggling with right now, and the family's trying to come together for it. But I always say, what do I need to learn from this? How can I grow from this?
yeah.
So I practice what I preach, essentially.
Yes. And that's why I think, like you talked about too, is like that's why I think this is so effective. I mean, this technique is taught in over 40 countries,
Mhm.
and it's, I mean, the list goes on and on of people who or former students of yours or even current students of yours that have successful careers because of this technique. Now, my question to you is, what made you what made you want to get into teaching and to create this technique? How did that whole process come about?
Well, it's a bunch of questions in that. Um, I because in my family, there's seven of us, um, and my mother was incapable of really taking care of us. The My father was always working all the time, so he was taking care of the world. He was a very great man who was a civil rights activist, as well as a lawyer for creating unions. And he was a guy that defended the people, and he was a Holocaust survivor. So he needed to do that. That was his purpose. Because as a little boy, his family had escaped Germany, so he couldn't do anything about it then. His brothers were part of the underground that got people from Germany to Israel. He was too young to do that. So as an adult, he was trying to solve his issues of wanting to save the world when he saw it was happening as a boy, as an adult. So he was busy saving the world. So not the family, but the world. So someone had to be a caretaker. So I just became like the part of like my mindset was my comfort zone, is taking care of people and empowering them and making them feel good about themselves, because when I do that for someone else, it comes back at me. When I empower you, I'm empowering myself. So when I was acting, because I first came out here to act, I found that, how friends always help each other with auditions, and friends help each other out with, you get a part and you read it together. And I was one of those people that was helping my friends a lot, but they always would give their best performance when they had that friendly help. So they started to say, well, I started to get a lineup of people, and I said, well, I should start charging for this, because I don't have all the time in the world to be able to taking care of all these people. They charge very little. And then it just became a thing that just started building up to like, when I was on set, I found myself looking at my watch a lot. So when I was teaching, I found the time went by, hours would go by, like it was 10 minutes. So like you define time. I always go like Einstein's theory of relativity is like time is bent, right? But to me, that I'm taking that into a more kind of philosophical point of view, is that time changes upon your boredom or your excitement for something. I found that my time when I was teaching would go really fast, and like I could have a 2-hour session. It seems like 10 minutes went by, and I could be on a set. And I was looking at my watch nonstop. So, like a minute felt like an hour. So it's like, and I just find when you're enthusiastic about something, when you love something, time goes by faster.
Yeah.
And when you're bored, it goes by really slow. So that was kind of an indicator of what I wanted to do. And so I found myself like, rushing home from set to work with people. And then when I started setting up school and classes and that kind of stuff, it became like my joy. So I hate Christmas time. I was telling that to some students the other day. I said, because we get this 3 weeks down from class, and I go, oh, nobody's working because it's Christmas time. But it's like vacation. No, I don't want a vacation. It's my joy. It's my heart. It's my motivation, it's my inspiration. And so when someone grows and changes, and whether it's because they took the information that I taught them and changed their personal lives, or they just won an award, or they just booked this amazing role that they never would have booked without this technique, where the producers and director and the network or whatever told them that you are, by far, you got this heart, like nobody even came close to what you brought to it. Or I get people shooting something, and that they would be, all of a sudden the smaller part became one of the leads. And so people send me emails all the time, and they forward it to me, the emails they got from the network, from the the top people from the network, the creator of the show, the director of that movie, and or winning awards. Judith Light won, the only person in the history of Tonys that ever won back-to-back Tonys is Judith Light, and the work that we did together. We broke down every line, every moment, every thought process here. And so it works for all venues, but it's just like to be able to get those things forwarded to me, like how just these long paragraphs of how exceptional they thought this person's work was and how blown away they are by it. That makes me feel so good,
Yeah. Well, and I guess I mean one of those examples that I could think of that I know of, um, is going back to Travis when he did the show Vikings. Um, I had seen in an interview that he was supposed to die like at the end of season one, or even like halfway through season one.
He's in the
And
first season and a half. So
okay.
die in the second season, mid-season.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and that's still,
Alive and
yeah, because I mean he brought so much to the character, and one thing that I really love about his work is how much he's able to tell without saying anything at all. Um, because it's the behavior, you can see the whole dialogue going on in his eyes. Um,
monologue.
yes,
That's it.
exactly.
We always and we. It's interesting because I had this because he's Australian. I was being interviewed for myself for an Australian newspaper, which he knew I worked with Travis because he talks about me all the time. And she said, "You want to hear my favorite scenes that Travis does from Vikings?" And I said, "Sure, of course I would." And she picked every single one that she picked was ones he didn't speak. It's like
Yeah.
there was where he was sitting on the edge of the cliff. They liked so much, the audiences liked so much as sitting on the edge of a cliff, thinking that they wrote him sitting on the edge of a cliff thinking a lot. They only
Yes.
did one, but then all of a sudden he was always at that because people were loving those moments and really literally no dialogue. He was by himself overlooking, but we had a lot of inner monologue, and we broke it down and what he was thinking that was personal. It was interesting because the journalist said to me, and when he was thinking this and that and this and that, and I'm going like, she was pretty right on. That's what he was thinking, but she didn't know the personal part of it, but she from the point of view of Ragnar.
Yeah.
And then because I began working with Alexander Ludwig, who was playing his son, when Travis was killed off, they started putting him on the edge of the cliff thinking. This became so funny. We all that stuff, and they kept putting him on edges of cliffs.
Oh, iconic, right?
But it's funny because like when actors say that I'm not really putting that much work into it because they're not writing for me, it's because you're giving them anything to write. Because
Yeah.
all the storylines that came up for Travis were ones we created from inner work, because he was supposed to just be one of those, a Viking, arg Viking. That's how it was originally written. But we brought in the whole thing about he loves his farm and his children, and it's all about that. And it's really not about power. It's really, for him, it was more about exploration and making his children proud. And it was like, and so they started writing that in. It wasn't what what was on the page. And then they started to write it and episodes that were happening later, and it became his objectives of how the writer Michael Hirst was writing for him was the stuff that he was gleaning from his inner work.
Mm. Were you had you worked with him on his final monologue in the show before he?
Who wants to be king?
Yes.
I was there.
Man, what a moment in that show. Oh man.
Well, we had fun with that, but I was there as on set when that was happening.
Wow.
Is it you?
Yeah. And he got up in one of his son's face, he slapped him in the face and started oh man. Yeah. That whole performance was phenomenal.
True, like from a point of view of wanting to make his sons man up. Objective. I need you to man up. Fight me, don't worship me.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were doing. The kids, in terms of the script, were worshiping their father, but not manning up. It's like, be better than me. That's what a good parent does. So he was trying to, he was in their face like a good military man does, is he or she with their children, you got to man up, you got to buck up. Bad things happen to you, you change it, you fix it, you overcome it, because that's what military is all about. It's like So we took the concept of the fact that he was a military man and he was the king. And so he wanted to have you earn the right to take my place.
Yeah.
Who is going to take my place? So it was, and then it became, we personalized it for his own personal stuff. He doesn't have kids, but remember whenever, I don't know if you've been taught this yet, but whenever you have to play a parent, your kids are just little you and your second chance to fix what happened to you, which is that they are. That's why when people say to a parent, "Oh, your child is so brilliant," you go, "Thank you." Your child is so handsome. It's thank you.
Oh, geez.
It's like this. It's like because you take it on. It's you. And
Yeah.
so when we have kids, it is our second chance to fix what happened to us. And so the thing is, he said, don't be in terms of like the script and our breakdown of that wonderful speech. It's like I need you guys to like really stand up to your man, to your old man, and say who's going to be the one that really earns the right to be this position. I earned it. I was just a farmer. I earned it. Now you've got to earn it. Don't be entitled because you're the king's sons.
Yeah.
And then the one kid who comes up to us, I will. And then they break for the next season.
Yes. Oh man, I love that show so much. So I do want to take this segment here. That some of your students, we've got a couple questions from some of your students here. So the first question is, have you found that actors have changed over the years? As in, have there been any new trends, either good or bad, that you've seen develop since you've started teaching?
Well, I think people are being more proactive. There was a point in time where it was all in the eyes, less is more, and now more is more. It's like the people are rewarding bold choices and bold behavior, and it's and bold choices. So as long as it's really truthful, really desperate need that you're going after, then what happens is that you can make the craziest, boldest, insane choices to get what you want. But back in the day, what it was that you were told, it's like, just keep it still, don't do anything, let it all happen, in the eyes. And now people are just really going for it. You see it, a lot of that in Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood. It's like, he just physicalized so much stuff, and it was really such an amazing performance because he just went there and didn't get scared that people were going to say he's overacting. I mean, Al Pacino once said in an interview, they said, like, what's it feel like to be an acting icon? And he said, well, I don't know, I don't really think of myself that way, but I just make a whole lot of choices and I hope it works.
Interesting. Well, and I know like Leo DiCaprio. I mean, if you look at him in The Wolf of Wall Street, that's super bold, and
exactly.
But
all the things that he's gotten accolades for has been very bold choices.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just people are frightened that they're going to be overacting. It's truthful and honest and desperate need. It will always find its way to just be really being effective. And there's also, I have to remind actors a lot, what is the worst that happens if you are overacting? What's the worst that can happen? You're not going to die.
No.
There's no prison for overactors. It's like some overacting police come show up at your door going, I'm sorry, mister, but you've been overacting. Come with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and how you
exist. So just take the chance, take risks. Artists take risks.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, the amount of times that I've heard over the years from many different people that it's easier to pull an actor back than it is to bring them up, and get more out of them. So yeah, that's great. Okay. Question number 2. What have you noticed? Let's see. What have you noticed as an actor evolves with their technique that makes them become freer and more empowered in their work? Is it when they find really powerful inner work, or staying consistent in using the technique over and over and over again?
Well, you don't want to just being consistent is kind of a boring word, right? Who wants to be consistent? I want to top myself. I want to raise my bars and then pass that bar and raise another and create another bar. So consistency by its very nature kind of keeps you bland.
Hmm.
I can count on you, you're consistent, but then I don't need to cast that because it's not exciting me. So the thing that makes people exciting is because they're taking chances, they're taking risks, and the risks that they take are from also the choices that the inner choices they're making that are scary to look at, the parts of themselves that make them dark, the parts of themselves that are make them feel, if people knew my thought process, they'd hate me, kind of stuff. But I use this example a lot, and I do this all over. This is an example I've used all over the world, and I've never had a no answer to this question. Said everybody on the planet has had that moment when you're on top of a tall building, where the person standing next to you, whether you knew them or not, you had a half a moment thought of pushing them over, and what that would feel like. And it's like this dark, this just, the dark thoughts that happen within us. It's just primal realities of being human. And so don't be afraid of those thoughts, because whenever I bring that up that everybody has it, so anybody here never had that thought? And nobody raises their hand. It's who has had that thought? And then of course everybody raises their hand. Not one person doesn't. And this is all over the world and all kinds of different cultures, from China, Japan, Australia, Europe, UK, and South America. I mean, it just really is, it's just the primal realities. So we have to look at those things that go like, I don't want to fear looking at my dark side, because that's our most interesting part of who we are. That's why when we're driving down the road and we see pretty scenery, we don't slow down. We acknowledge in our head, oh, that's pretty. But if there's a car accident, and the more jaws of life and ambulances are there and car buildup, the more we have to stop. And I've actually tried to not stop, but my body kept saying, "You got to stop and see what's going on. Anybody die? Anybody die? Anybody die?" So you and I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna try to take it, not listen to my impulses as a human being. And I said, "Screw it. I got to see how many people died here."
Yeah.
But we are compelled by the dark. So if you don't tackle your edge, the parts that that scare you to look at, then you're not going to be using the best choices that are going to make you have the most dynamic performances. So if I use something that's easy and safe, your end result's going to be easy and safe.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so the final question from your students here is, then, when an actor finds a character that's so unlike themselves, so opposite of themselves, how can you find the connection to that character without having experienced the same sort of trials and tribulations that they have?
Well, you just have to look at it from a more primal human reality. You've never killed anybody, but you may have wanted to.
Yeah.
So the thing is just to look at you have to take that little fraction that exists in all of us, all the sinner, the saint, the hero, the villain, all the different people that exist within it. So the paranoid, the schizophrenic, there's all these little pieces inside of us that we have to create a whole out of. So we just have to explore that part, the parts of this person that don't seem like they are the same. It's just find how that little fraction that exists inside of you is the same. And then you with using that in your personalizations as inner object, substitution, inner monologue, once you put all those pieces in and you personalize all that stuff, what happens is that you're triggering that part of you that's like that person on the page that initially seems like it's not like you at all. I've had so many people say, I don't know what to do with this role. I'm not like this. And then when I start to personalizations and like just saying how they're like this, knowing them, they're like this in this way. They will say like literally an hour later saying, isn't it weird how close this character is to me? And I swear to God, how many times I have heard that?
Like, why do I feel like I'm so similar to a serial killer? What is this?
It's not even that. It's just like, isn't that cool that like I'm so close to this character that I
Yeah.
get to play a character that's so much like me. But all we did was we found the and things that just human things. Like I told you the story about the being on top of a building, and said we all have so many different people in us, and they're not all grand, they're not all fabulous, and they're not all charitable. You know, it's so we have this insanely selfish need to have our power back, willing to do anything to get it. Personalities inside of ourselves, so that it may not be triggered as often as say the character on the page is it, but it is triggered. It depends on what I remember. I had a NPR show that I was on where the reporter said, I can never kill anybody. How do I personalize killing? You know, so she's saying, because I don't have one iota of a killer inside of me. So how would you do that? And so he challenged me, and he took a couple of lines from a killer speech. I forget which one. But anyway, I said, you have a daughter. Yes. She's 5. Yes. What if your daughter was raped? And he had raped her so hard that he split apart her vagina. And she was also so hurt down there, she will never be able to have children. She's traumatized for the rest of her life. Would you kill that person? He said, absolutely. And I said, okay, now go. Say those lines.
Now go.
Now go say the lines, because he had to say those lines as a killer.
Yeah.
And he sounded like a killer. And this was at the radio show, it was an NPR radio show. So you didn't see him. It just all you heard was his voice, but it changed entirely because he was mad. And
I'm sure.
and so the thing is that it's like he understood better that we can trigger, we all have all these people inside of us, but you have to figure out what's the best triggers to get you there.
Hmm.
And for a journalist who doesn't have any zero he has zero want to be an actor. Like he just was doing a piece to see like how does one really connect to some of the bad people that sometimes we have to play, and so I just knowing his history and knowing as we talked before, I always ask a lot of questions of people, so I get to know them before they don't even realize it before. In 10 minutes time seeming like idle questions, I just learned so much about their life. And so I just went zeroing in on a thing that would make him a killer.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. I mean, if, geez, I don't even have a kid. And I know that when I do, because I do hope to have kids, that 100%, if the situation ever came close like that, then yes, 100%, I would.
150%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
but if you're playing a killer in today's world, it would be like, is there somebody that you want to kill because they've hurt someone that you love? That doesn't have to be your child.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's also I call it energetic kills. It's like the energy that you want to kill. Like I want to kill my mother, but the part of my mother that made me feel bad about myself, that made me become someone that was incredibly self-destructive, and that I need to kill her as the energy that made me feel that way. So I'm killing off the part that makes me feel that way, and therefore I can move on and be and solve, the part of my life that I really need to solve. So I call it. So when I teach being a killer, what I do for actors, not for that moment of like explanation, it's like to find the energies that you want to have killed, like or the part of you if you have to commit suicide or get killed.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that you have to, so you can die with dignity and not being a victim, is that it has to be your choice that you want to. So it would be like, for example, in Edmund, she gets killed in the middle of the scene. And so this one girl, what she used was she wanted her mother to kill her. but the part of her mother that was just pure fear, because the girl who was playing the girl who gets killed was she made so many choices from fear that she wasn't living life. So she was not saying yes to a date because she was afraid the person was going to hurt her. She wasn't putting herself in the place to be able to look at getting an acting job because she was afraid she was going to get rejected. So everything was about fear. So she needed to kill that part of her off. And the person that gave it to her was her mother. So she substituted the substitution of her mother as the killer, as Edmund, and then the part that she was getting killed. So she was seeking it out. Kill me, kill that part, kill my fear that you gave me. So, and it worked. It's beautiful. I've done this a lot in like a lot of award-winning performances that are called energetic kills. So that we're not like really trying to be bad people. We're actually solving something of great magnitude that's going to help us have a better life.
Interesting. Energetic kills. I've never heard that before, but I like that.
I made it up. Not.
That makes sense then. So one thing also that's always intrigued me is that so if you could explain from the best of your knowledge or what you think it may be, is how come there are actors who every role they're in, they just completely transform, and I'm like someone like a Johnny Depp or a Daniel Day-Lewis, where like they're that character every time you see them. But then there's other actors who it is, oh, that is so and so just in this movie. This is so and so just in that movie. Like they're the same. Like you always know, like, oh, that's Mark Wahlberg. No matter what movie he's in, that is Mark Wahlberg. You know, what do you think the difference is there?
It's choices to be made. Sometimes people want to, embody an entirely different character, and some people want to just bring in themselves to every part and find out how it is that who they are as people on a day-to-day is also what their characters are going to be. It's a choice. People even have choices to make. And using my inner work, it's like your body will change upon objectives, substitutions. Just think about this. Like a simple example. When you're around your mother, you're different, totally different. You hold yourself differently than when you're around some girl that you really like. Then when you're around your ex wife, then when you're around your dad, and then you're around a famous director. So and that's just like a real simplified version of like your body totally changes. How you express yourself changes around these people. Your needs are different, that also express different behaviors. And then that's just the simple thing. What objectives are, the inner monologue that you have that will change how you behave and hold yourself. The need to really, so if you feel that this person is like speaks from a place of like vitriol, of disturbing, gut level stuff, it's like this feeling like you're vomiting these words, because I feel like I need to purge. So the idea is, and that being a scene objective, is going to make your voice different. It's just, it depends on how far you want to get into like playing, full on playing a character, or bringing yourself totally to bear in that character, and using your personal circumstances to just bring in your general, the quirks and idiosyncrasies that you generally bring in life.
Okay.
Not everybody wants to go to the bold character places, and some people do, but I just think that's what makes the world go round. We're all like, that's why people who try to just please the script and say, well, it says crying here, so I'm going to cry here. It's like they're not bringing a uniqueness to it. So whatever that, you have to make choices that are based on things that trigger you to the places that you want to go to. And that can also be, it's the best thing ever when you end up with inappropriate behavior, because that's the truth of it. When we're at a funeral, we're not always mourning. Only actors mourn all the way through. People don't. So,
Yeah.
and at a funeral, what might happen is that you're mourning, and next thing you know, that person over just came into the church, somebody that you used to have sex with and you don't want to see. It's like all of a sudden it becomes all about that person. And then you go back to mourning. And then you think, oh, God, I'm really hungry. I really want what they're going to serve at the wake. And you're thinking about food and what you hope they're going to be serving. And then you're back to mourning. And next thing you know, this person over there that's like, God, that person's hot. I like a piece of that candy, and then you're back to mourning. But that's the truth of our life experiences, and we're not so unilateral regarding, like, I need to mourn. That's the scene's about mourning this person, because how people trigger us and what's going on and what's happening is like it doesn't have, it's complicated. Our needs are simple. How we manifest our needs, how we go after our needs is what makes the complications.
Okay.
Our needs have to be simple so that anything can happen. So you're not in your head.
Okay. Well, Ivana, before I wrap up this show, I have 3 rapid fire questions that I want to throw at you. I guess the first 2 are, the second one isn't necessarily, or the last one isn't necessarily, but yeah, so this is a little segment I always call the goods. And I just kind of want to pick your brain a little bit,
Do some picking.
Yeah. All right. Number 1, what are some of your proudest moments in your career as a teacher?
When someone's life changes, I've helped a bunch of women who doctors said that they couldn't get pregnant. They would never have kids. And then I'd use it as their personal work to try to overcome and win with, that they can have children, and all of them have had kids. So
Wow.
well, it's because your psyche and your body works hand in hand, and there's a part of that we have to kind of look at. That's the part of your psyche that doesn't want to repeat the sins of your parents. So you stop your body from having them. So we try to solve it within the inner work of the and our objectives and our inner work and that we're using, and it just seems to. The only time it didn't work was because the person, as it turned out, didn't really want them. So
that'll do it.
It came down to it. She said, I don't really want one.
Yeah.
It's like my family to want one. Everybody says I should want one, but I'm just finding my career now, and I just really enjoying and where this particular person lives is in a kind of oppressive society for women. And so it's like she's expected to want it. She does. So then if her body doesn't have one, she says, well, my body didn't have one, so I can't have one. So she can enjoy her life as an independent woman and not just be a mom, which is what society and her society is asking her to do. So that makes sense. But remember, we're trying to solve things in our work. Yeah. So we do is we try to solve things for the character, and then when our personalization is, what do we need to solve in our lives? That's why that's happened, because your body's going to go in form of what you're. That's why if you place someone with cancer or any kind of diseases, heart disease is obviously heartbreak. The different cancers, like if you have breast cancer, it usually means that you have issues with nurture. And. Okay, so the issues that you have to then look at, and that's the truth. The science of illness is it starts from the psyche first, and then it finds its way to becoming physicalized. So for you, that's why a lot of people have had remissions, and and cancers that that they said that they were in 4 stage cancers. Next thing you know, they're totally in remission and they don't have it anymore. It's because they start tackling the things that got them sick in the first place.
Wow.
So, but the thing is that that's because when you play these characters, you have to look at that, and then when you're time to personalize the issue of that person is. This is the same thing as like when doing drugs or any kind of addiction. Each addiction is solving something. Alcohol is solving courage, fear, and courage. Amphetamines, cocaine, Adderall, solving feeling like a loser. It's giving you. It gives you power. Sex addiction gives you love without pain. I mean, every addiction gives you something. Food addictions, food problems are about feeling that you need nurture, because food is nurture.
Yeah.
And something with other addictions. A gambling addiction is trying to be in control. Because you not control, because it's the most uncontrolled. You have no control over a gambling situation. That's why you keep doing it until you win, and then you win, you want to keep winning. And then you start losing, you say, "Well, I can win again." So because I want to control my realities, but every addiction solves something for a moment. That's why it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Because that goes into the down spiral of it, the circle of addiction. And then you start to self-loathe because you need that, whatever it is, to solve something. And you go to solve it again. And you have the pie works this way. There's like maybe a fifth of the pie that actually is solving it and you feel good. The rest of it's all bad. So that's why it's an addiction. So, but you have to, how many addicts do you have to play in parts? And almost everything out there has either you have an addiction, a disease, or you're a killer or being killed. So these are all like just things that you have to learn how to do, but from a place of righteousness, and a place of understanding, a place of exploration of why. The power of why. We have to know why, not just play it.
Man, all that just like blew my mind. Oh man, that's super. I've never really thought of it like that before in terms of addictions, like specifically. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So next question.
That wasn't such a pow, but
No, that's okay. That's all right. But
rapid fire one.
no, that's okay.
Responded with a rapid fire answer because I never do.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't mind that at all. I love trying to absorb as much as I can. I always try to be as much of a sponge as I can, because you can learn so much from people.
Absolutely.
And so my next question is then, and this is definitely on the lighter side, is what's your favorite Thanksgiving food? Your Thanksgiving dish, would you say?
Well, I make the best stuffing you ever had. And anybody who knows is eating stuffing. It's a 4-hour deal, but everything gets caramelized. Every product that goes in it gets caramelized with butters from all over the world. Shallots and garlic and all the other ingredients become caramelized for 2 hours, and then put into the stuffing mix. And then I also take giblets and innards of a turkey and create a broth, so that it's not just water that you're putting in there, chicken soup or whatever. I create a true broth, and it tastes like candy. It's really yummy.
Stuffing is my favorite Thanksgiving dish. So
I make it.
oh man.
I make it really good.
one day, hopefully I can try it. So my last question of this absolutely wonderful talk that we've been able to have is, what are some things that you do to stay positive, but more so stay grounded?
What do I do? Well, I always try to find the lesson. What's the life lesson? Because there's always a life lesson in everything. Sometimes it's really not the easiest thing to do, but once you find the life lesson, it's really very satisfying. Therapy is always good. I enjoy my therapist, but I call it whatever I need to like have therapy because I'm going through something important. Therapy is a great thing. Um, and I love cooking. Cooking grounds me. I love teaching. That grounds me. I love writing. Um, I I'm writing my memoirs right now, but they're funny. They're meant to be funny, and they're supposed to make you laugh and cry at the same time. So they're funny, but they're it's like have you ever read David Sedaris's books? They're kind of along those lines.
Okay.
It's his life. It's his things that have happened to him, all his books. But the thing is, it's the funny. They have a funny spin on it all, but it's all based in tragic shit that's happened. You know.
Mm.
So what else do I do? I eat.
There you go.
I like having conversations with people like yourself. And I just like to explore and keep learning. It makes me grounded is to think there's so much more to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ivana, that's all I got. Right. Yeah. That's I don't want to take up too much more of your time because you've been gracious enough to give me the time that you have so far. So thank you so much for being here. I really genuinely do appreciate it. And I feel very blessed to have been able to sit down and speak with you. So I hope we can do it again. And thank you again so much.
And there's so much more. So much more to talk about.
Yes, most definitely.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that wraps up this amazing episode of The Good Life. Thank you to all of you who are always riding with us, and my mind is blown from that whole episode. I mean, from that whole conversation, I am just in awe of the brilliance, and I'm honored to have had her on, and I hope she'll come back again one day and we can talk some more and we can dive into some more because there's so much more to talk about with this craft and with her technique and all that stuff. So thank you to Ivana, and thank you to all of you. Make sure to go down in the description, and even if you're not an actor, get her book because it can help you with so much in your life. And I wish you all a very happy, safe, and warm Thanksgiving, and stuff your food, or stuff your face with some food, and maybe watch some football. Enjoy family time because the holidays can go by like that. So enjoy every minute of it. All right, we'll see you next week.